Welcome to another episode of Remember the Great Sports NBA 2K19 roster edits. Here's what I'm doing today. This is the New Orleans Pelicans, and one of the comments that I want to make is, well, what NBA 2K has done is they've kind of commingled the Charlotte Hornets and the NBA Pelicans, the New Orleans Pelicans. So I've decided to strictly look at these are only players that played for the New Orleans Pelicans. Meaning, I'm going to leave some people off this list and add a couple. This is going to be a short video, but the criteria for this is you had to play after the 2002 season. So like Jamaal Magloire here, as you can see, was a Charlotte Hornet and a New Orleans Pelican. So he would qualify for this list. But if you didn't play after 02-03, and you're before that, I'm going to drop you off this list, and I'm going to add a couple people. So this is going to be a short video. This is just my preference to keep only Pelicans on this team. I didn't want to have people that were kind of Charlotte Hornets because that's a separate team. So stay with me, and we will give you the updates here really fast. So the only two that I say that need to go off of this team are the last two on the list, and that is J.R. Smith and Trevor Ariza. I feel that the other two, there might be some other people that could go off this list, but I feel these are the main two that need to go. Trevor Ariza is a good player, played for New Orleans, but he's kind of bounced around quite a bit through the league. I just feel the other two guys that I'm going to add, belong on this team a little bit ahead of him. Plus, he's kind of in a position where he's like, let's see, 1, 2. He'd be the fourth small forward on this team. All right, sorry about that. I had to switch out the battery real quick. But the second person to drop is J.R. Smith. The reason for that, Smith is a good player. However, he only played a couple seasons for New Orleans, where he's found success elsewhere with other teams, since then, obviously. So, being he was only on the team for a couple years, I felt he was one that needed to go. So stay with me, and I'll show you the two additions to this lineup that I added, and hopefully you agree with me. We have Chris Paul at the point guard, Peja Stojakovic at shooting guard, Jamaal Magloire at the small forward, Anthony Davis at power forward, DeMarcus Boogie Cousins at the starting center, and I know he's no longer with the New Orleans Pelicans. He was only there for a couple seasons, but being the fact is that I have such a small window of people to work with here, I put Cousins on this team because he had some great seasons with New Orleans. However, if there are people that surpass him, longevity-wise as a Pelican, he definitely would be bumped off this list because, like I said, he was only there for a couple seasons. David West with the Pelicans. Baron Davis at the backup point guard. David Wesley is the backup shooting guard. This is the first addition to the lineup, and that is backup power forward P.J. Brown. P.J. Brown can be found elsewhere on the game. I believe he's on the Miami Heat rosters. I don't know about the all-time Heat, but he's at least on those Heat rosters, and I feel that his time in Charlotte, New Orleans and Charlotte, actually, he played for both, is often overlooked. He's a good 10 and 10, 10 points a game, 10 rebounds a game type of player. So I think he's important to have coming off the bench on this team. The backup center, and again, P.J. Brown can play center or power forward, will be Tyson Chandler. Tyson Chandler's played for a numerous amount of teams, but he had probably some very successful years, if not the best years of his career playing for New Orleans. Drew Holiday, the current point guard for the New Orleans Pelicans, definitely makes the team. However, I can't put him ahead of Baron Davis as the backup point guard, but I feel Drew Holiday is a good point guard / shooting guard, and you can switch him and Davis around between the shooting guard and the point guard position if you needed to. Drew Holiday makes the team. And this is the other guy that I added. This is another big man, Jamaal Magloire. Jamaal Magloire had some excellent seasons as the starter, starting center for the Pelicans. Again, this is somebody that would probably have some limited minutes behind, Tyson Chandler and P.J. Brown, but he could also play the small forward if needed, or small forward, the power forward position if needed. So that gives you another big on the floor if you need it. Finally, Tyreke Evans. Tyreke Evans had some excellent years with New Orleans. Spent about almost 4 years with them. This is, again, somebody that I rounded out the roster with, but if there's somebody that surpasses, the longevity with the team, I would say Evans, like Cousins, would need to go. And I just simply kept Ryan Anderson and Eric Gordon on this roster, to round out the 14th and 15th players. With that being said, I feel that the one player that is currently on the team, Nikola Mirotic, hopefully I'm saying that right, I feel Nikola Mirotic probably might surpass Jamaal Magloire as the backup center, backup center. That would bump him probably off this list, if Mirotic continues to be as successful as he is with the Pelicans. But I, again, am hesitant to put somebody on a team if they've only been there for a year. But, of course, I put Boogie Cousins on here, so how can I say that? But DeMarcus Cousins is a little bit better than Mirotic is. So this team is coached by Alvin Gentry. He is the current coach of the Pelicans. This is a team that, has not been around that long. Again, I'm segregating the fact that they are not affiliated with the Charlotte Hornets in any way. So that's why I have a very small window to work with here. The Charlotte Hornets own all the records now. However, these guys were Charlotte Hornets and New Orleans Hornets. And I misspoke earlier in the video, but I meant to say that the original Charlotte Hornets are now the New Orleans Pelicans. And for a brief period of time, New Orleans didn't have a place to play, so they were the New Orleans / Oklahoma City, before the Thunder existed, Hornets. They then got rid of the Hornets name and changed their franchise completely to the New Orleans Pelicans. And the now Charlotte Hornets, who were the Bobcats, which were an expansion team, took the name the Charlotte Hornets. So the current Charlotte Hornets were not the New Orleans Hornets. It's a very confusing scenario. So I meant to say that earlier in the video. I believe I said that the Hornets were New Orleans Pelicans in 2002. So that was incorrect. I apologize about that error. So as I was doing this video, I'm like, that's not right. Because I actually happened to go to a game to see the New Orleans Oklahoma City Hornets play once. So that I actually experienced that pleasure of seeing the New Orleans Oklahoma City Hornets once. So with that being said, I hope you agree with this. The New Orleans Pelicans, it's a very young franchise still. So, if you look at segregating them from the Charlotte Hornets, it's very limited on how many players you can have, because you're only looking at about a 15, 16-year span of time to add to that roster. So hopefully this roster gets better. I would certainly not recommend playing the all-time Chicago Bulls or Lakers with this team, because you'd probably get demolished. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. Come back and join me on a few more. Thanks.